Welcome back to another episode of the D-League. This week, episode 17, and today Bilal and we will be talking about Moba, multiplayer online battle arenas, which is pretty much a synonym for Dota and League of Legends today. And so before we get into the experience part, a short overview, what is actually a MOBA? A MOBA is pretty much two factions fighting against each other, with players controlling one hero each for the most of the heroes. And so the main target is to use your hero to defeat the enemy team by destroying the main building. And so the team that destroys the building wins. Doesn't matter how high level your heroes are or whatever. If the building dies, you lose. Mm-hmm. And the controls are pretty much like an RTS. At least if you play on the computer, you use your mouse to select and move your hero unit, or maybe you have smaller units as well. And you have the keyboard for hotkeys, for example, for skills. The main like gameplay of a MOBA is that before the match starts, each player picks his or her own hero. So you have a wide selection of heroes to choose from with different abilities, and that's pretty much what makes MOBA so different to other games, where you have kind of like a preset, which is a hero unit, and then you can just pick which one you like most, or which one might counter the enemy heroes, etc. So that's the basic strategy. And then when you get into the game, you use your hero to kill neutral units or computer-controlled units that spawn automatically, and then you gain resources that you can use to buy items to make your hero stronger, or give you advantageous abilities. For example, an item that makes you go invisible, or maybe an item that disables an opponent, or where you might jump to a position instantaneously. And that's pretty much it. You pick your hero, you farm resources, you buy items, and you try to destroy the enemy main building with your team. And so that's the basic gameplay. And like the history of MOBA is pretty much the origin of Dota, or Defense of the Ancient, which was a mod for Warcraft 3, which is a 3D real-time strategy game. So probably the reason why we still have this control scheme of moving with the mouse and hotkeys for abilities even today. And I know there were other maps similar to it, like in StarCraft, but you didn't have that complex experience and skill mechanic in the game because of the game mechanics of StarCraft. So Warcraft 3 was like the ideal basis to build Dota pretty much. And after that, it developed into, like, from a mod to its own genre, with games like League of Legends, Heroes of New Earth being released. And then after these two were released and became quite big, Valve actually put out Dota 2, and that's what we kind of have as the main games even today, pretty much Dota 2 and League of Legends. Bilal, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll give my take on I guess the basic like definition of it. To begin with, I think like RTS, the word or the acronym MOBA for the genre is like very very vague, just like RTS. And so it doesn't really describe like how niche it is, and it's kind of interesting uh, because like RTS and MOBA, they're so niche that like control schemes are always the same almost, and they kind of play out very similarly. Like each RTS seems like like it's an RTS, like the game you would kind of expect when you hear RTS, but then they take their own twist on it. And with MOBA, it's even more so almost the same game, but with a small twist on it. And so, like you said, with a basic definition, I mean, like, yeah, it's kind of hard to say a definition, but yeah, I agree. Basically, like two factions fight each other to gain resources to make it easier to destroy the enemy base, which is how you win. Um, and yeah, I mean, yeah, the history. I think basically League of Legends like the first standalone MOBA. I mean, you had you had Dota, the map in Warcraft 3, right? And then like where did it go
Yeah.
from there? I think it went. I mean, I thought the next thing was just League of Legends because I mean that's kind of the main
I thought
standalone
it was Heroes of New Earth
that
first,
came
and then
before.
League of
Okay,
Legends, and then Dota 2.
okay,
And I know that a lot of players switched from Heroes of New Earth to either League or Dota
uh huh,
because, like, if you played a game professionally, then I think LoL had a higher prize pool.
hmm,
So yeah, that's or then afterwards Dota as well. So that's why people switch games. So I
yeah,
know that Dota 2 was came out last,
yeah.
but I'm not sure
Well,
if
yeah,
one
Dota
was
two.
formal.
Dota 2 was in 2013, which is pretty late in the MOBA scene, and League was kind of the main thing. It came out in like 2009, had very bad graphics in comparison to what it has now, um, and like very basic champions in comparison, so it really evolved. But yeah, I mean that's kind of that's the history and like how MOBA works. I guess do you want to get more into maybe we should to like describe like different aspects of MOBA? Do you want to go from like different, I guess, like sections of it, like control scheme and all that stuff?
Different control schemes. Well, I guess
Oh no,
concerning. Huh?
like how like different sorry different concepts like how the game is controlled, how you win, like what items do, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I guess like if you compare Dota 2 and League of Legends, then um, the mechanic of last hitting is different. For example, in Dota, you are actually able to kill your own units.
Yeah.
So if your computer units are low HP, then you can attack them, so the enemy cannot kill them for gold. But in League of Legends, that's not possible, and
Hmm.
so that's like another mechanic that Dota has that League of Legends doesn't. Where because in LoL you only need to focus to on killing the enemy unit because you cannot attack your own units.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of something that uh, Dota has that makes it maybe a bit deeper in that regard. Um, else, I guess the control scheme is quite similar. You have four skills, mostly three normal skills and one ultimate.
Hmm.
It's not different in League of Legends, right?
That's how it is mainly
It's
in League of Legends. Actually, that's how it
yeah.
is only in League of Legends, and then in Dota 2, that's just the main scheme, I think. Or is it even the main scheme? I mean, Dota 2, like, there are some champions with one ability and with, like, 10. so, so yeah, it kind of differentiates in Dota 2, at least.
Yeah. So I guess the basic theme is that you have 3 normal skills and 1 ultimate skill. But then in Dota now they introduced stuff like the talent tree, where you can you have specific buffs that you can select from level 10 onward. So like you start with hero level 1, and then the maximum level in Dota is 25. And so with level 10 you can start selecting a talent, and that's level 10, 15, 20, and 25. So you have 4 times where you can select a talent, and it's always a choice between A and B.
Yeah.
So, for example, if your hero has a talent that's plus 200 movement speed or plus 20 attack speed, then you can only pick one. Even if you get a new, kind of point in the talent tree, you need to pick a new talent. So you have 4 times the choice between A and B. Is there something similar in League of Legends? I know you have these scrolls, or what is it, like this experience system where you can like
there's no okay, so in Dota you used to upgrade stats, but now you have like talent tree and abilities, right? And so in League there was never any upgrading stats. It was only upgrading abilities. And I mean, is this like, actually, I feel like should we go more basic before this? I mean, like,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we talked about last hitting and okay, yeah. So
yeah, maybe we should start from the heroes, maybe like the hero archetypes you have in the game.
Okay.
That's
Let's say, so we talked about how you destroy a base and you earn money, right? So I guess what typically happens, like, let's begin with first you choose the champion, then you like choose a lane, right? So
exactly. So you have 3 lanes. Maybe that's a good thing to actually mention. Or I guess the main the popular MOBAs have 3 lanes. So it's like top, middle, and bottom. So one lane that goes from, let's say, a bottom left corner up and then right. Then you have one that just goes diagonally from bottom left to top right. And then you have like the bottom lane, which goes right and then up. So you have 2 lanes that go into the corner and 1 lane that just goes straight through the center.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of, so it always like sounds simple, like this lane is that one and this champion goes there. And so what's interesting, it actually to begin with is I guess the difference between like in Dota what the lanes do, because, or in Dota and League, because if you look at League of Legends, top laners both go top. Whereas in Dota 2, sometimes like top lane and bot lane are referred to differently, right? Because on the different sides, the lanes are actually shorter and longer. So on Dota 2's top right side, which is the Dire, their top lane is actually safe lane, and their bottom lane is
off lane.
Off lane, yeah. Some people also call it suicide lane, because typically you'll be doing a 2v1 there, and so it's you basically will have a harder time there than you would if you were in safe lane, and so yeah, I guess the reason for this 2v1 is because each lane people go certain roles, and so in safe lane people typically pick a high damage physical carry, and have a lane support, like for the most part. And that's because typically like a carry, like a physical damage carry that's like very like important to have at the end of the game, does very poorly in the beginning of the game, and then has abilities or stats that scale very well throughout the game. So I mean, so yeah, that's why that person would need a support with them to make that lane a lot more easy to deal with the enemy and grab last hits. And basically, like the point of that lane is for the physical damage carry to get as much money as he can and experience as he can before reaching the end of the game. And yeah, I mean that's I guess the main part of safe lane. I guess if you want to add anything to it.
Yeah, I think there's not much to add. Of course, you have different strategies where maybe a team just really wants to secure the resources for the carry hero, that they actually send in 3 heroes. So you have the carry and 2 support heroes.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, there's... If somebody wants to pick a fight, then they need at least 2 or 3 heroes, and like 1 hero is not enough. That one will just get bullied away from the units, so that that hero cannot get any experience or resources from hitting the units or killing units.
And yeah, so yeah, we talked about how I just want to like clarify. We talked about how abilities or skills, we call them as well. You press keyboard buttons to use them, right? And so I'm like saying physical damage, and what I'm talking about is in a MOBA when you right click, basically your champion or your hero will go and do something at that point. Typically, it's either moving or attacking for the most part. And so if you're hovering over something and you attack, you'll have either a melee attack or a ranged homing attack. In both Dota and League of Legends, when you use this thing that people sometimes call basic attacks or auto attacks, these are always homing when you're ranged, or they're melee, depending on which hero you pick. And so with these physical damage carries, that's kind of their main way of fighting or dealing damage, is they want to get in as many hits as they can without overcommitting or suiciding or being in a bad position, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's I guess to bring us to, like, items. That's what last hitting the enemy minions is all about. Is so that you can buy items to make your auto attack stronger if you're a carry, or other things depending on what other champions you pick. And yeah, that covers that kind of point. Yeah, and so I don't know. Unless you want to add to that, maybe we can talk about, I guess, mid lane next, or jungle or something.
Well, I guess we can talk about like hero types later. So
yeah,
I guess I'll just keep that in mind. What I'm currently thinking about.
Okay.
And yeah, let's go to safe lane, mid lane, and then maybe we can talk about stuff like jungle.
Yeah, so let's go with our. We just said safe lane. We kind of talked about support. I think actually the main part about lane support is basically to make it easier for your carry to survive in lane or to farm in lane. And so sometimes you'll have a hard disabler lane support who will use things that'll make the other player either like stunned or slowed, which makes it harder for him to do things, basically to damage your carry. Or you'll have somebody with excessive healing, which can just heal you a whole lot. So if you get hit by things, it won't matter as much. And yeah, that's kind of the main aspect of support, I think. And with that,
also like it's pretty much about zoning, like you say. That has skills that damage, but the main function of those skills is to keep the enemy hero away from hurting your
Yeah, exactly.
carry hero, pretty
Yeah.
much, right?
Yeah, to
So,
avoid. Yeah, I was saying. I was trying to say. I was saying. To avoid. Yeah, to avoid having your carry get damaged. With whatever spells. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Now, else it's pretty much like the supports. They also give vision. So, for example, like the carry hero is always close to the units, so that the carry can last hit. But for the support, maybe you zone a bit, and then when the enemy hero walks away because he took too much damage,
Yes.
then you can just move around a bit, maybe place something like wards that also give vision. So it's more like area control as well, where you say, okay, I want to have a support here. I know that the carry won't die against the other hero, but it's about having the vision around the area so that if another hero comes in to kill the carry, so that the support hero actually sees the other hero coming in, and so they might just kill the support hero that's not as valuable as the carry hero.
Yeah.
So it's also something like a safety measure for the team. It's not just being aggressive, but also like another defensive option for the team.
Yeah, it's a plans get very complex, but yeah, those are kind of the main things. It's like control vision, help your guy last hit, don't let him get hurt, and stop the other guy from hurting him. Those are like the main kind of things, and it gets more complex with like the concept of zoning or positioning to like make the other guy not get last hits. Things like that. But yeah, I think that's like the basic stuff that we can say to make it not too complex for now. And let's I guess as we're going through these lanes, we're kind of bringing up new hero concepts. So so I guess
let's mid lane. Let's go to mid lane.
Yeah. And so I think really quick, mid lane, like in my opinion, I think the best things about a mid laner are they should be good at roaming, so they should be able to walk out of their lane and go to other people's lanes and help them get kills or apply pressure. And when I say apply pressure, I mean like force the other guys to either get fewer last hits or damage them enough to where they have to go back to base and heal. And so they'll be good at doing that, and they'll also be good at clearing waves. And the reason why a mid laner needs to be good at clearing minion waves quickly is because mid lane is the shortest lane in the game. So minions are walking towards mid tower very fast, and it's very easy for that to be pushed. So if for example the enemy team were to have 5 people at mid lane and they want to destroy your tower at mid lane, and you have a mid laner who's able to clear very fast, you can clear the wave and make it a lot easier to stop the enemy from taking your tower. So I think those two aspects, ganking and wave clearing, are pretty big for a mid laner. There's probably some other stuff I'm not thinking of right now, but what are your thoughts?
I think concerning mid lane, of course it depends on the team strategy, but I think because you sent in one hero alone into mid lane most of the time, it's also important that the mid hero can kind of self-sustain. So for example, if you have a spellcaster hero that has really high mana cost spells, so that the hero runs out of mana after like 2 or 3 spell castings, that might not be a good idea, because then there's no pressure. Like, that hero cannot apply any pressure to the mid hero of the other team. So I think, like, for example, in Dota, you have Viper, which doesn't have much wave clear, but is very strong in like bullying the enemy hero. So it's a good one versus one hero, like that can just man up and fight really early in the game. So sometimes some heroes are like, for example, Tinker, which has spells, which is mainly a spellcaster hero with one targeted ability that does a lot of damage, and the enemy hero cannot hit auto attacks anymore. Every attack will miss. Then you have rockets that home in a big AoE if you have vision, and then he has a big wave clear ability. So that hero has kind of everything, but the main reason for sending that hero mid instead of like safe lane is that in mid lane, because of the short distances, you get experience more quickly or more guaranteed, I think, than the other lanes.
Well, it is the shortest, so it is faster.
Yeah, so in this case, for Tinker, the reason why that hero goes mid is more that he can gain experience quickly, so he can actually use the target ability, use the AoE damage ability, and like the homing rockets. So yeah, you can play him either way. You can play him as wave clear hero, or you can play him as like a hero sniper unit. With a lot of like target damage. And I think other heroes are kind of like that as well. For example, like the classic mid hero in Dota 2 was Shadow Fiend, which had wave clear and high right click damage. So he was good in 1-on-1, but also good at deep pushing. So if the other team wanted to push the lane, then he could just kill the creeps and like the computer units, and then deep push that way. But I don't know how it is for LoL, but in Dota you also have some guys playing stuff like Alchemist or Wind Ranger that play completely different. One hero is all about farming gold, so resources as fast as possible, while the other hero is more about kind of using wave clear early to get a lot of right click damage. With the ultimate.
One thing to know between League of Legends and Dota is League of Legends meta. When I say meta, it means like basically what pros play, what the rest of us find viable to play based on like what professionals are doing is usually referred to as the meta. And so in League of Legends, the meta is a lot more static. Like it changes. But when I say static, I mean like people don't do weird things. They kind of do the same thing during a season or during a patch of League of Legends. Whereas in Dota, you can do a lot more different and weird stuff. Like in League of Legends, you'll expect a lot more mage, nuker, wave clear kind of guys in mid lane. But in Dota, you can see weird stuff, or more weird stuff, like people from all different, spectrum people from like all over the spectrum of different types of heroes in Dota can kind of go mid. But the main thing to understand is that the reason that you pick something is not just because it is the mid laner, but because of what the other mid laner picked and because of what their entire team composition is. Like your champion can do well against certain scenarios based on his role and based on some of his specific abilities. So yeah, I mean, if somebody is picking something that needs to farm a lot mid but can't really do any harassment, and if you were to pick something like Sniper or Viper, then you just poke him down easily, and he can get screwed over from that and not really get ahead ever. Um, and you know, so like kind of the possibilities kind of go on with the different stuff that you can pick in these different lanes because of the ability for the other guy to do whatever, and because of how many different items are in the game. So yeah, I mean, League is a lot more one-sided in that kind of regard, where you kind of have to do less weird stuff to be better at the game, whereas Dota kind of lets you be more flexible, I think, in that regard.
Yeah, I haven't played League much. I played it a bit in the past, I think, like a few games. But yeah, for Dota, yeah, there's a lot that you can do with the heroes. So, for example, maybe is there? We have the jungle, but before we talk about the jungle, in Dota, you can have heroes that usually are played as a carry, where people play it as a support. So, for example, you have a hero like Chaos Knight that is usually a carry, but you can say, okay, that hero has a stun and an ability that pulls the enemy towards the team. So you can play him as a support, or maybe you have a support that you play as a carry, depending on the patch. Maybe what would be like Skywrath Mage, which is more support, like a typical support hero, but some teams pick it as a carry hero as well sometimes. So yeah, that you can do a lot of different strategies, even if you use the same heroes. Like you have 5 heroes and they are the same as like game 1 and game 2, but because you buy different items, or you say, okay, this hero goes mid, and the other hero will be support this game, that can change around a lot about how the game actually plays out in the end.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so, yeah, I guess junglers. And in Dota, junglers aren't a required thing, I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I do not know much about the Dota meta. But I've played the game like quite a few times, but kind of at like a low level. I'm more of a like League player. So in League of Legends, I'll say to begin with, junglers are required pretty much. Like if you do not have a jungler on your team, then your team is at a big disadvantage. And yeah, I mean they kind of do what you expect. They actually, before we talk about that, I guess with Dota, like we just said, you said you agree that you don't necessarily need one in Dota, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean the main role of the jungler is typically the jungler will get less money through the jungle than laners will get in their lanes.
Before we go to junglers, maybe we should talk about what the jungle actually is.
Oh yeah, you go ahead and explain that.
Yeah, so you have the 3 lanes, but then of course you have space between the lanes, right? So you have kind of like a square with a line through the middle. So you have like 2 triangles, and the area between, like inside the triangle, is pretty much called the jungle. Or in Dota you also have a river like going through the middle.
Yep.
But like both teams have their own jungles where completely neutral units spawn. So they are computer controlled, but they are not on either team.
Yeah.
So both teams can kill those units to gain experience and gold in case of Dota. So they also vary in kind of strength. You have weak, medium, hard, and ancient camps. So like ancient are the most powerful creeps with a lot of HP, but they give the most most experience and gold, while the weak creeps are on the opposite spectrum. So it's they die quickly, but they also give just a bit of gold and a bit of experience. So you can farm those creep camps really quickly and then just move on. Or maybe you can use them for supports to level up, because maybe they are low level compared to the other heroes, then they can just kill the weaker creep camps. So yeah, that's kind of, well, something that's called the jungle, because you have only like these jungle creeps and trees around the area, so it's like you are walking through a jungle, I guess.
Yeah, and the most important thing to know about the jungle is that it's actually not a jungle; it's a forest.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a bit stupid. Why is it jungle if it's actually a forest?
Literally evergreens on Radiant side and dead trees on Dire side. No, but yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much the jungle. At least the Dota jungle, right, with the ancients and the weaker creeps. But I guess the League of Legends jungle is a lot more. It's a lot more static, I guess, on both sides. You have 3 camps on both sides of the jungle, like on not on. Okay, so there. Let's talk about it slowly. There are 6 total on each side of the map, so like each team will get 6 total camps. But each like quarter jungle, so each team's half jungle has 3 camps, and 2 of the camps are important buffs that they give you like a buff for a short period of time. That will so one of them is the blue buff, which gives you cooldown reduction and very high mana regen, and the other one is red buff, which gives you your attacks like overtime damage, and they also give a bit of a slow, and they also and you also get like a really high health regen when you're out of combat from red buff. So in League of Legends, you typically have the jungler. He'll go start at one of his buffs, and then one of his team members, either top lane or bot lane, will help him get his first jungle buff. So they'll like auto attack it a lot until it's hurt down to like a low amount of health, and then they'll auto attack it to death. And that's kind of how the jungle works. And then the jungler will do his thing and go around and help lanes by roaming and ganking their lanes to get kills, or like to just apply pressure or make them waste some of their spells. And so yeah, that's kind of the main aspect of jungle. There's more to it, like for example using smite, which is like a spell that makes it easy. Basically, it deals true damage, so it ignores any armor. It just deals pure health damage to creeps, so that you can get them more easily, or you can smite like objectives such as Baron or dragons, which are, I guess we'll talk about later. But they basically give your entire team pretty good buffs. So yeah, that's kind of the League of Legends jungle. But yeah, I'd say, I mean, the main aspect of the jungler is to basically support his team for the most part. That's the main. Like, that's typically what usually happens in League, is you'll expect a CC jungler to go around and help your team pick up kills. But sometimes they'll pick like an assassin jungler who will just deal damage fast, and sometimes even grab the kills so he can snowball, which snowball means to get a lot of kills early and use that power spike to just keep getting more and more strong. So that's also something that you'll see in the jungle. But yeah, basically they go around and grab kills. Yeah.
Yeah, in Dota it's a bit different. Like in the recent patches, they decreased the gold that neutral units give. So the creep camps in the jungle don't give as much gold and experience as like they did 3 years ago. So yeah, at one point they even made the spawn from every minute to every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, at that point they kind of nerfed junglers a lot. So like the jungle right now in Dota, I think is just a place where the carry or like heroes can just get additional farm, but it's just additional farm. It's not you don't really have one hero assigned to the jungle anymore. Where you say, okay, for example, Enigma in Dota could just jungle on his own for starting level 1. So the main reason to send him to the jungle was that he doesn't take experience from the lane, so you get an experience advantage by having somebody in the jungle. But through the nerfs, that game style was also nerfed. So yeah, at one point, just didn't make any sense to send somebody there because, like, if Enigma could get an advantage in the jungle 3 years ago, right now he doesn't get as much gold and experience as he did at that time. So yeah, like the playstyle just kind of disappeared. At least from level 1. Now you usually have a hero that goes into lane for a few levels and then goes into the jungle to grab additional experience and gold, and yeah, so it's still used, but not as let's say center point of gameplay for some heroes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So I guess do you think that's enough coverage, I guess, for the jungle?
Yeah, I think that's well, we talked about safe lane, we talked about mid lane, we talked about jungle. We kind of talked about off lane. I guess off lane can just be summarized by pick tanky hero that does not die easily to get something out of actually off lane. So the hero is just running around in off lane to grab experience. Like the main target is not to grab additional gold through unit kills, but just be around in the experience range to get levels. Yeah. Because like if you have 3 heroes around a unit that gives 60 experience, then each gets 20 experience.
Yeah.
But if there's only 1 hero around, then that hero gets 60 experience. So the main idea of actually kind of splitting up and having somebody in off lane is that you want to, even if that guy gets just a bit of experience, he doesn't take away experience from the carry hero in the safe lane. So that's kind of the main point about offlane. Just don't be in the way, stand in the way of the carry hero actually getting experience and gold, I think.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it can be any champion, or any hero. But I think in Dota, you want to be able to live and survive in a 2v1. In League of Legends, it's kind of Offlane is basically just top lane, and it's not really as focused as being a different lane, as it's just you typically will grab teleport so that you can teleport to any other turret on the map or to wards, which are like placeable vision, or to minions, and and you want to be able to be a champion that can do well on his own. So like, because you're so far away from the map, you're not next to any objectives that you need to worry about until like mid game. Top lane can basically just be a bruiser, a fighter, or a tank who can live on his own and can also hold his own by just getting creeps, and doing his thing up there. You don't need to get kills, but you often will, obviously, in lower elos, and even in higher elos. Honestly, it's mainly pros who don't really have solo kills going on in their lanes, but yeah, I mean, top lane is about being a kind of partially tanky, not always, but for the most part, bruiser kind of guy who can fight on his own. But yeah.
Okay. All right. So we kind of talked about the map. Let's quickly talk about heroes and or like the different archetypes you have. I wouldn't go into that much detail because they are very different. Even like you can have 10 spellcaster heroes, but they are all very different. So
yeah.
And then afterwards, let's talk about like the play experience and the dev experience. Why players like to play the genre, and why, as a dev, you might be interested in doing it or not doing it. Yeah, concerning hero archetypes, I think there you have, like we talked about the lanes. So you have like the carry, the mid lane, hero, and the supports. But then you have heroes that are, for example, carries. You have physical damage carries and you have magical damage carries, where like physical damage carries are good in the late game, because the more HP and damage they got, the more sustainable they are and the higher the damage output gets. While for a magic carry, spellcaster carry, it's like you peak earlier because you just need the levels to get like maximum damage out of your spells. But if you don't kill the enemy team quickly, or let's say early in the game, if you don't win early, then the strength starts to decline because enemy heroes will get more HP, get more magic resistance items, for example. And then if you have a spell that does 600 damage, of course it's stronger against a hero that has 1000 HP than one that has 3000 HP. And yeah, that way, if the enemy heroes have more HP, then it kind of does less damage, percent based damage, let's say like that. And for supports, it's also very varying. Like Bilal said, you have the hero, the healing supports that are more about directly supporting a hero, but then you have hero supports that have long range spells that just make the enemy scared of attacking into you, because by the time they arrive, they already took a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Then you have supports that are more about giving the team the opportunity to attack. So stun-based supports, or for example in Dota 2 you have Lion, which has a stun and a hex spell that changes the enemy hero to, I think, a frog now.
Yeah.
Which cannot attack and is very slow. So you have 3 seconds stun and then maybe 4 seconds hex, which means the enemy hero cannot defend itself for 7 seconds, and by that time your team just goes in and clops that hero to death. And then of course you have some supports that are kind of in between, that have stuns but also or maybe don't have stuns at all, but might can heal but have long range spells as well, or maybe just the ultimate is very team supportive. So that's kind of the thing that makes the different supports or carries play out differently, the different abilities, and at which point in the game the heroes are really strong, I think.
Yeah, well, I guess if we're gonna talk about archetypes or roles for things, I mean, I wonder. I mean, if I think off the top of my head, there's basically, well, I'll think in terms of League, right? So there's the attack damage carry. There's who's pretty much that's his role, just get autos off, get basic attacks off to deal damage, physical damage, and then there's the rest of them are kind of mix and mash, right? So there's Engager, which is somebody who's able to get on the enemy to make, to somehow apply crowd control, which is disables stuns that we were talking about, and then make it so that your team can then attack him. So basically engaging a fight, and that's where the term Engager comes from. Then you have, I guess, somebody who can peel. So, for example, you might not have good range to engage, but you might be able to taunt people or to change their focus off of the carries or off of your backline, so that they don't die, and they can still get hits off during a team fight. So I said Engager, Peeler, carry, and then with mages you kind of have a control mage who focuses on using his abilities to force people into the positions that you want them to go to, instead of allowing them to, for example, collapse on your team. Maybe you put down a wall or a damage area of effect to stop people from entering on you, and that's what a control mage is in League of Legends. And then you also have a nuker, who is kind of what we described earlier with Tinker. You just deal a lot of damage in one burst, and typically you can one shot, or with using your kit, maybe 2 to 4 abilities of your kit, to one pop an enemy carry. And those are kind of the main roles, I'd say, in League. I mean, I think there are a couple more that I'm not thinking of, but those are the main important ones, I think.
Okay, then I guess if people want to know more about the roles, then maybe just give MOBAs a try, and then or watch some games, then you will understand the roles better, I think. And let's move on to, as a player, why MOBA are actually fun to play. At least I think that's important to know. If you don't know if MOBA is for you, then I think MOBAs are fun as a player because you can play with friends. I think that's the main point. Because they are most of the time 5-player teams, and you can also take 1 friend or 2 friends, or up to 4 friends, and play as a team, and so you can have just fun together. And if you are just playing with random guys, then you can also blame them for losing. so that way, if you and your friends lose, then you can just say, that other guy is at fault. He didn't play good enough. Otherwise,
teammates.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think the MOBAs are really challenging because you have such a huge hero pool to pick from. So you can. It's not even you playing a different hero every time, but like you won't have the same team composition frequently. So you play 100 matches and you will not have the same hero composition in your team or maybe on the enemy team in any game. So it's very like the map is always the same, but the gameplay is very different from game to game. Also MOBA are very challenging. There's so much stuff you can improve on. So maybe you're not good at last hitting, then you can practice last hitting, or maybe you don't have like the game sense. Where you don't know, you don't pay much attention where the enemy heroes are or map awareness. So in that case, you can work on those skills to actually get better. So I think MOBA are also a genre where you don't stop learning. The more you play, the better you get. And I think that's also something that's fun as a player, where you can just see, I am getting better at the game, and where maybe you are the person that actually changes the like the result of the game, because you played that hero that well in that game because you played 1,000 games with that hero in total. That you can win games outright because you're so good with that hero.
I think all those are that's pretty much everything that I would say, like, as to why MOBA's fun. Like teamwork, the challenge, competitive play, and progression. Only thing I would add is you can kind of feel like you're in the zone. Like actually at the end there, when you were talking about like saying being good with 1,000 games on a champion. One thing that's nice to do is, like, when you join up and like queue with friends or other people, you can be in the zone with your champion and feel like, yeah, this is my champion. I'm really good at him, and I'd like to kind of keep this as my role. And I also like to see other people be sticking in their role, and we all kind of grow to be this team of badasses that I guess do their thing very well, and it just has a good impact, like with teamwork. So I think those are like the big reasons as to why it's fun as well.
Yeah, and like MOBA are very addicting, because if you play a match and then you lose, then you say, but I want to win, so then you queue up for a new game. And then like in Dota, a game can take up to 1 hour or even longer, and then your evening is gone because you played 3 matches. You just played 3 matches, and those took 3 hours in total. So you can spend a lot of time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So concerning development, I took some notes, or I thought about it a bit, and I think as a developer, creating a MOBA right now is not very feasible, because the market is already flooded with MOBA. You have Dota and LoL also kind of dominating the market, so it's difficult to get into the market because those two are free to play. So how do you get people to stop playing those? It's not about the price. People are already used to playing those games. And you want to have a sustainable product, right? So you would also need to create a game that's like free to play, but in some way better or different. And if you want to have competitions, then look at the prize pools for Dota and LoL tournaments. You have people living off those games, so you have to throw around a lot of money, and especially as a indie developer, I think it's not possible to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't need to start out with tournaments necessarily, but I think like the main reason, like I personally, okay, I'll start with the reason why I wouldn't really play another MOBA than like League of Legends is, I mean, I have played Dota 2. I'm not really playing it now because I never really tried to be great at it, and I tend to have more fun in League, but I mean, the reason why I wouldn't switch over is because I don't know. To me, it's kind of already the MOBA, or like League and Dota are kind of the iconic MOBAs that already exist, and MOBA is such a like niche genre that I don't think I could see myself like switching to go to a better one. Like I've tried other ones like Strife, and there was another one. It was like Guardians of Graxia or something like that, and they're really, I don't know. I mean, I guess they'd be viable, but MOBA is so niche, like I said, that it just doesn't really seem like a different game. So I don't know.
Just look at Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah.
From Blizzard. I mean, they wanted to get into the MOBA market, and at first it worked a bit, I think, but now the game is pretty much dead, right? I haven't read a lot about it.
I don't know, but
it's
it
all over.
Tanked.
It's all Overwatch now, I think. So.
Yeah, and that's another indication. Like, I mean, as a developer, like I would never go for a MOBA, not just because of how like difficult it would be, but I mean, like look at how much Valve and Blizzard are struggling to keep up with League of Legends. I mean, it's just such a huge player base in comparison, and not even Dota 2 can keep up. And I mean, you can argue like maybe it's like the gameplay in Dota 2 is more slow, or the turn speed is bad, stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, Valve makes really great games, so it's interesting seeing like Blizzard and Valve, the two like game giants, are doing worse than Riot, which is just a random company that made League. So something.
Well, they got all the Chinese money for years now. So.
Yeah, that's true. They do now. So
I guess we talked about a few games already. So maybe just as another example, as a MOBA, Arena of Valor is a smartphone MOBA. So I guess that's something new, where the developers, instead of putting out a PC MOBA where the market is already flooded, they put out a smartphone version for people that want to play on the go.
Uh-huh.
And I tested the game for maybe an hour on the smartphone of a friend. And so, for example, you have spells that you just click the icon, I think, and then like an area around you is visible, and then you just let go if a hero's in that area, and then it automatically targets that hero. So it's more about I think it's also just 3 heroes on a team. I'm not really sure anymore because I just tested it for a short time. But the game is more about very short games. So where if you have a few minutes to spare, then you just play, and then you're done in maybe 15 minutes instead of like 30 to 60 minutes like on the PC.
Yeah.
And in markets like Japan and I'm not sure about the US, but in Japan, a lot of people just play on the go. So because they are not home a lot because of work or school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's something where you have kind of like a mobile version that you can play everywhere as long as you have a internet connection.
Yeah. Well, I don't really have anything to add to examples that I feel are worth mentioning. So.
Okay. Yeah, I guess then let's end the episode for this week. So this week we talked about Moba. If you haven't heard us talking about the genre for more than an hour now, yeah, I guess kind of like I think it's the biggest esport genre at the moment, but things might change. So yeah, give us your opinion on the genre. Maybe you say, nah, there's still space for more MOBA. Maybe you say, yeah, smartphone, that's the future. We need the smartphone MOBA as esport. Just let us know in the comments. And yeah, I guess you don't have any final comments then, right?
No, I do want to mention, since we didn't talk about like any like super complex concepts, I just want to mention like a couple that exist, like for getting like better at MOBA. I'll kind of just list them off. I'll say so vision is important. Pressure and lanes. You want to like always think about objectives. Lane control is a huge one, like making sure your wave is either pushing or controlled, or slow pushing, or maybe you're just zoning the enemy champion by freezing. And you need to know like when to team fight, when to use crowd control, and the concept of trading objectives, like destroying one tower and losing a tower, or suiciding so you can get a tower on the other side of the map, for example. And map awareness, like we talked about. And then there's also the concept of like frontline champions and backline champions. Typically the front lines are tanks and the back lines are more stronger damage dealers. So that's those are all some concepts I just listed off quickly because I didn't really get to explain them much. So
yeah, all right. I guess in Dota it's a bit different, but maybe you should just watch a few games how teams play, and then I think you will grasp the concept very quickly. Else, to all our listeners or viewers, I would recommend, if you're interested in just seeing what's the hottest game on the market right now, or why people love MOBA, just give it a try yourself, and then you will understand the best, I think.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for this week, episode 17, MOBA. Next week we will talk about a different genre, so stay tuned and see you next week.
Yep, we'll see you in the next episode.